Hello, my name is Jennifer Lawrence. I'm a certified dog groomer of 20 years and I've been working with Cavaliers for the last 10 years. Today I'm going to be showing you how I like to pet groom a Cavalier to keep their hair healthy and you as a pet owner happy. First of all, I'm going to be going over the tools that I like to use on them. This right here is a dematting brush. This is to help break down the mats and get the mats out. This is a slicker brush, a pin brush, a Mars Coat King. These are the nail clippers that I like to use. You can use these on the dew claws or smaller puppies, and these on the bigger dogs' nails. These right here are my 3.5 inch blade shears that I like to use to clip their pads. And these thinning shears is what I like to use to help break down big mats and to trim their hair on their feet if you decide to do that or not. And then here we have a metal comb, and here is the clippers that I use to do a sanitary trim if you choose to do that on your pet, which I'll be going over today. And we use a 10 blade on the clippers for that. And these are the main tools that I use to groom a pet Cavalier. This is Angel, and today I'm going to be demonstrating how to do a pet groom on her. I'm first going to start off by showing you how to clip the pad hairs. With Cavaliers, the only thing that really should ever be trimmed on them is their pad hair. And if you would like, you can also do a sanitary trim on them, which I will be going over today. Some people think that it might be okay to shave a Cavalier, but if you do that, you risk possibly damaging their coat and the hair not growing back the same. It could grow back curly, less shiny, and you can damage the current coat. And so just be aware if anybody tries to convince you to shave down your Cavalier that you might not get that pretty beautiful coat that the Cavaliers do have. I'm going to start off by showing you how to trim the pad hair, and you can do it either I like to use a 3.5 inch blade shear to trim mine, but you can also use your clippers if you have any with a number 10 blade on them. I'll demonstrate using the shears on one paw and then the blade on the other. I like to hold the dog. It makes it a little easier if you have a grooming table or a countertop. If you have your dog on the countertop, if you take your arm and you wrap it around your dog, it kind of helps support the dog, helps it stand, feel more comfortable. I like to grab the leg down here and hold the paw up like this. First of all, I'll demonstrate with the shears. What we're trying to do here is just get all this extra hair in between the pads out. Always being careful not to cut your dog's pads. Getting all those hairs that get in the way and bring dirt and mud into your home. Also, if you live somewhere that snows, you can get ice built up in between those hair pads. And you just want to keep pulling the hairs out in between the pads and cutting. And there is a nice scissored pad. Now I'll demonstrate how to use the clippers on the other pad. And again, we're using a 10 blade. Being careful as well not to clip your dog's pad with the blade. And you kind of are going to do the same thing, but you're going to use a scooping motion with your clippers, going in between the pads. And you can use shears or clippers, whatever you prefer. If you're uncomfortable using shears, you could use clippers. It's a little bit more safer. And there's how you can clip out the pad hair. Next I'm going to go into showing you how to clip the nails. She has clear nails and you can see the quicks, which is the pink spot that if you do get into the quick, it will cause the nail to bleed. So if you have these clear nails like this, they're a little bit easier to trim on your own at home. You could see where to stop. So I'm going to go over how to clip the clear nails, and then I'm going to grab one of our other dogs that has dark nails and go over how to clip those as well. These are the type of clippers, again, nail clippers that I like to use. I like to, again, hold the dog in the same position, supporting the body and keeping support on her back end to keep her up from sitting. If you have a dog that's a little bit antsy or a puppy that's learning how to get its nails trimmed, sometimes I'll put some treats on the table or smear a little peanut butter. It keeps them a little occupied and their mind off of what's going on back here. You can also start off with just 1 or 2 nails a day until your dog or your puppy is familiar or comfortable with you touching them and clipping their nails. So I pick up the pad like this, and if you hold it this way, you can see where the quicks are, and your dog right there. So hers are pretty short. So I'm just gonna take the tips of them off, and you want to stop when you see the little circle right there in the middle. That means you're getting close to the quicks right there, so that lets you know that that's a good stopping point. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this pad on her. And until you get the hang of it, just taking little clips at a time will help you prevent taking one big clip and causing your dog to bleed. And then there's a good one right there to show you how you probably should stop, because that white clear center right there means you're getting close to the quick. And then with the dew claws, I like to use a smaller clipper, the same one. These kind of curve more and it's easier to get in there, and you just clip. And now I'm gonna grab a dog with dark nails and let you see how I do that on that dog. Alright, and now we have Ginger. She has the dark toenails, so I'm gonna show you how to trim those. You can see here that her toenail's all black, so you can't tell where the quick is on these. So I'm gonna show you how to be safe and not quick the black toenails. Again, I like to just take little clips at a time. With the black toenails, you'll usually see a grayish or a blackish dot in the middle instead of the clear dot. You can see now we're getting close to where the quick is. So hers looks different than the other one. The other dog with the clear nails, the circle is clear. This one's dark, and that lets you know that you're getting close to that quick right there. Again, just taking little clips at a time. There's the quick starting to show right there. And there's a real good example of when you should stop with the black nails. So if you choose to do a sanitary trim on your pet Cavalier, I'll be going over that now. The sanitary trim will help the pet's pottying areas to stay free of urine buildup and feces buildup. It'll make your dog smell better, your home smell better, and your pet skin and hair be more healthier if you do decide to do a sanitary trim. We use a number 10 blade on a clipper. And first of all, I'm going to show you, we start at cleaning the area back here. This will help get the feces from building up back here and keep it clean. Some guys, I think they call them dingleberries. They'll stick to the hair back there and stink. And then sometimes your dogs will rub their back ends across your carpet trying to get them off. So this kind of just neatens that area up and helps when they go to the bathroom for it to fall on the ground and not get stuck in the pet's coat. And then this is a female, so I'm going to be showing you how to do it on a female. I lift up the leg to get around the area where the urine would build up. And again, I just kind of gently hold onto the leg, lift it up, and clean out that hair around the urine area, letting it be able to fall on the ground and not so much on the hair. And then I walk to the other side and put the leg on this side and do the same thing. And also, this dog is very well trained on being on a table, but you always want to make sure you have a hold of your pet if you do have it on a table or a countertop, because if they fall off, they could get really hurt. And then to get on the belly, and if you had a boy, this is how you would do them as well. You would pick their front legs up and you trim the hair. If, like I said, if this was a boy, you trim the hair around his urine area where all the urine would get stuck in his hair. I don't have a boy to demonstrate that on, or I would. And you always want to make sure, if you're running your clippers for a long time, the blade can get hot and you could cause clipper burn on that sensitive skin around their sanitary areas. So always just make sure that you're not running your clippers for a long time and rubbing them up against your dog's skin, because it will cause clipper burn if you're not careful. So that's how you do a sanitary trim on a pet Cavalier. And next we're gonna get into, she has a lot of dead coat, all this hair. I kind of let it build up for this demonstration today. And you can see how just me, rubbing my fingers through it, it's falling out. This is all dead hair that needs to come out. That if you don't get it out, it's just gonna cause matting. The skin's not gonna be able to breathe properly. It's telling you it needs to come out, and you just pull it like this and it falls. But next we're gonna go ahead and get into the bath and get her bathing done and her drying, and then going over all the brushing process. And then also some people might want to trim this hair around the feet, which they call Grinch feet sometimes. Some people like it, some people don't. It's just up to your choice. It does help to bring debris, not to bring debris into your house if you do keep them trimmed up. And I'll be going over that as well after the bathing and drying process. So now we're going to go ahead and get started with the bath. So now we're going to start the bathing process. First of all, you want to make sure that you have a good temperature on your water. I like to have it lukewarm for the dogs. I usually will test it by letting it run on my wrist to make sure it's not too hot, too cold, and a comfortable temperature for your pet. All right, now we got a comfortable temperature. I'm gonna start with rinsing her. I like to start at the head and work my way down. Always making sure to be careful not to get water in your dog's eyes, up its nose, or in its ear canal. Just be very careful with that. I like to start at the head, holding her chin up, working down her ear. The side of her muzzle. And then when you do the inside of the ear, I like to, some people will use cotton balls. You can use a cotton ball down in their ear, but a lot of dogs will shake their heads and they come right out. I like to use my thumb and kind of cover the base of her ear canal so you're not getting water in there. Rinsing her ear. And going down her body. Turn her around to get the other side. Again, holding the ear canal to not get water down her ear. I like to take a face cloth to do around the eye and the muzzle. Cavaliers can have a lot of tear staining, and they can build up debris in their eyes. This will help loosen any tight debris that you have under their eyes from the tear staining. And then next, I like to use a tearless shampoo around the face. I use it on the top of the head and all around the muzzle and the eyes. The tearless shampoo helps if you were to accidentally get soap into their eyes. So I use, this is a blueberry facial tearless scrub around their face that I like to use. Be careful not to get it in their eyes. I'll let that sit while I use a concentrated diluted shampoo on the ears and the body. Again, starting at the top of the head and working my way down. You want to make sure you get a nice good lather on the coat. Get out all the dirt and loose hair. Massaging it in. I'm not sure about you, but I know when I get my hair done, my favorite part is the shampoo. So I like to think that the dogs enjoy a good massage as well while getting their hair shampooed. Get in the armpits really well. Those are some of the stinky spots that like to hold matting. Their pads. Just working a really nice lather into all those areas. Their sanitary areas. She's had babies, so she doesn't have much of a tail, but if you have one of those big, beautiful, long tails, just making sure you get in that tail hair really well. Also, while they're wet and lathery, you could see matting better on the dog. So some mats you might not be able to see when they're dry. You might be able to see better when they're wet. She doesn't have any on her, but they like to mat really bad under their armpits, behind their ears. She actually has a little bit of matting behind her ear right there, which I'll show you how to get out when she's dry. So once they're worked into a nice lather, we go ahead and rinse them off. Again, making sure the water is a nice temperature for your pet. And I like to start at the head again, making sure not to let the soap run down into their eyeballs. I'll hold the head up, rinse the head backwards, and then down the ear. The inside of the ear, holding the ear canal so the water doesn't get down your pet's ear. And always remember, when they're wet, they like to shake, so be prepared to get wet yourself. And then I like to take the muzzle and run some water down the side. I'll use a face cloth to go over the muzzle at the end to make sure we're not leaving any extra soap on there. So after you have rinsed out all the shampoo, I do about the same thing that I did with the shampoo with, I'll use conditioner. I don't do below the head, the face with conditioner. I'll do the ears and the body and all down the legs. So just use a nice conditioner. Some conditioners have you leave them in longer than others. Just read your bottle and go with what the directions say. But work your conditioner all through the body and the ear, and then rinse it out like you did the shampoo as well. So now that your pet's been shampooed and conditioned, you can go ahead and start towel drying your pet, getting around the face, well, around the eyes, getting out as much of the water as you can with your towel will help the drying process go a lot quicker. Blow drying your Cavalier is one of the longest processes of grooming, especially if you have big, thick ears. You could squeegee some of the water out with your hand, which will help get that too. Okay, so she's had her bath and she's been towel dried. Now we're gonna start blow drying her. I like to use on the face, I like to use around the head and the ears. I use low heat on a low speed. It helps your pet from being scared, also not getting too hot around the face and the eyes. And then the body, again, I use low heat with a high speed for your hair dryer on there. When you're blow drying, you always want to blow dry the hair in the direction of its growth. If you blow dry in the opposite direction, it's going to be a lot harder to work that hair down back in the direction that it's supposed to go. And then with the ears, I like to blow dry each layer, trying to make sure that you get every strand of hair dry in their ears. Cavaliers are prone to ear infections. If you don't get the hair around the ear dry, it could cause yeast and stuff to build up in the ear. So always make sure to try to get the ears as dry as possible. When I'm blow drying, I like to brush as well, and I'll use a detangling spray. They make tons of different types of detangling sprays. I like to spray it on their coat while I'm blow drying. I'll use a pin brush while I'm blow drying the hair. It helps me figure out where the matting is. When you're doing the inside of the Cavalier's ear, what I was just doing was I was holding my thumb again over her ear canal, making sure that I'm not blowing air directly down her ear canal. I like to do that for the inside of the ears, and you want to make sure that you get all the inside and the outside of their ear, like I said earlier, as dry as possible. Okay. Okay, so we have gotten through the blow drying process, and now I'm going to go over the brushing. I like to start off using a pin brush to go over her. I'll be able to see if there's any mats and feel for them. I'll use a pin brush with a slicker brush and also a metal comb. And you could see just from brushing her some already all the dead hair that I have gotten out of her. I like to use the comb last because if there is any mats, I like to make sure that I'm removing them before using the comb, so I'm not ripping the mat out and hurting the dog. So now I'm using the slicker brush, and again, a lot of the pet Cavaliers that I see, they have all this dead hair hanging out everywhere. That is hair that needs to come out. The slicker brush, you can see just from brushing the hair that's coming out with it. The more dead hair we have up in the coat, like more matting, and the skin can't breathe. So we really want to get all that extra hair out. I have brushed her ears already with a slicker brush, and now I'm using the metal comb to go over them, making sure to get behind the ears very well. That's where a lot of the matting happens. You want to make sure that you're brushing over the pet's whole body, the neck, the legs, the armpits. You get a lot of matting in the armpits and back here in the legs. So those are your points that you want to make sure you're really brushing. So as I was brushing her, I noticed she has a couple mats. There's a mat right here, and I like to use a dematting conditioning spray. You condition the mat, and then this is my dematting brush. I like to hold the mat in my hand like this and gently work it out with your dematting brush. That was a nice loose mat, so that was easy to work out. Your tighter mats are going to be a little bit harder to get out. She has one on her front paw that I'll show you how to get out. These are the tricky areas because some people will forget to brush their dog's feet hair, and it does mat pretty bad on their feet. You could see this big mat right here. Again, I'm going to spray my dematting conditioner and use my dematting brush to gently break up the mat. You want to be careful when you're using a dematting brush or a slicker brush. You can cause brush burn if you're continuously brushing your pet in the same area. So try to gently work the mat out without causing any stress to the pet's skin. Also, a little trick I can show you, since it is a pet Cavalier. You could use, if you have a really tight mat like the one on her foot, you can use a thinning shear to thin the mat out. It won't show a sharp cut from like a shear. What you would do is just take the hair and thin the mat and then brush it out. So you take your thinning shear and make sure you're not on your pet's skin at all. You take the mat, you do a couple of cuts, and then you could take your comb or your slipper brush first, gently work it out. And again, another cut. Okay. When you're working with a mat, it is a long process that you do have to be gentle with to get it out and take your time. And then the mat comes out, and since we use thinning shears, you can't even tell that it was cut out of her pad. That's a way to get a mat out that's a little bit tighter than the one that was on her back leg. So I'm going to continue to brush out all the dead hair, using again my detangling spray over her body and brushing out all the dead hair. And then a lot of these pet Cavaliers will have this crazy hair on the top of their head that grows out like this. And I'm going to show you how to get that out. I like to use the Mars Coat King brush here. It pulls out the dead hair. Also go down the body and pull out all the dead hair with it. You could see the excess just coming out there. These are really good to help get rid of all the long hair, long dead hair that's not supposed to be on your Cavalier. And again, with the top hair here, you'll have to keep combing it up and brushing it down. You can also, she's got a lot up there. So also, this is all dead, and you could finger pluck some of it out. It doesn't hurt her because it's dead hair that needs to come out. I'm making sure I'm not getting down into the hair that's still alive, which would cause her pain. So some of you might like the hairy Grinch feet that the Cavaliers have, and for you that do not, I can show you how you can kind of neaten them up, keep them a little bit more tidy, and to bring less debris into your home. And so first of all, what I would like to do is cut anything that might be dragging on the ground back here. And I'll use, again, I like to use my 3.5-inch blade shears and just trim the hair around. Just lightly trim the hair that touches the ground. Again, always being safe not to cut your pet with your scissors. And that just took away the excess that was laying on the ground right there. And then I like to just give the hair a little circle trim to it. So I'll take the pet and put her foot down. Stand up, girl. And I like to take my shears and go around and just cut off the little crazy ones that are going all over the place, making a circle around the pet's paw. Kneading it up. It makes it look a little bit more cleaner, but also helps with, you know, this time of year is fall and all the leaves being brought into your home. And I just go around with the shears in a circle pattern. If you have really thick ones, you also could, you know, thin them out a little bit by just taking a clip and then thinning the hair out. And I go around and I do the same thing on all 4 of the pads, the paws. You can take more, you can take less. It's whatever you prefer as the pet owner. And that's how I like to tidy up the foot of the Cavalier. Sometimes on the Cavaliers in the back right here, they'll have a lot of hair that comes off that looks like this. It looks like a skirt kind of on the Cavalier. She doesn't have that as much, but again, the Mars Coat King is good to get that hair to lay down flat and pull out all the dead hair that's not supposed to be there. it's a lot of brushing and a lot of elbow grease and time to keep your Cavalier in a nice pet coat. You know, the hair is its natural state, but we're keeping it brushed. We're trimming it a little bit, the sanitary, the feet trim, the pad hair. But we're not taking the coat, you know, shaving it down, making it change the way that it's naturally supposed to be. Alright, so now that we got the bathing and the brushing and nail clipping and dematting out of the way, I'm going to show you how to clean the ears. I like to use an ear cleaner that's formulated for dogs, and the one that I use, this is how the directions direct me to use it. I'm going to start off by flipping the pet's ear over, and I'm going to apply the ear medicine into the ear canal, just a little bit in there. And then you take your hands and gently but firmly massage it into the ear. And then you're going to take the excess, and you can use a cotton ball or a cotton round. You want to wipe out all the excess from the ear and clean out the ear. All right, and now that's the ear canal cleaning process. And now I'm going to go in and show you how I like to clean the eyes from the tear staining. First, again, I'll use a cotton round, and I'll use the tear stain liquid. I take the cotton round and I work out where the tear stain is. I always move away from the eye, not towards the eye, down the face. Again, this is a tear stain solution. It helps clean out the under the eyes. And then after I apply the solution, I'll put the tear stain powder on. It kind of helps absorb the moisture that comes from the eyes. And I just take my finger, get it in there, and then I just pat around where her tear staining would be. It helps keep it dry and break down some of that staining from her tear staining. Okay, and for video purpose and recording purpose, I have only done half of her to kind of show you what she looked like before I did the trimming of her feet and the pulling out of the extra dead coat of her hair. So this over here is the side that was done, and again, this is just a pet brushing, you know, grooming on a Cavalier on this side. And there's a lot of different opinions of, you know, how to groom a pet Cavalier. Through my experience and trial and error, I just feel this is what works best, in my opinion, for keeping their hair healthy and you as a pet owner happy. And this is the original side after the bathing and drying process. With, you see here, this is all the dead hair that wasn't pulled out, and the feet aren't trimmed, and the excess hair isn't brushed out over here. So that's the before the brushing and trimming process. Again, here's the finished side after we've trimmed her up and neatened her out. And she has recently had puppies, so her hair is a little wild from having her puppies, but again, this is a pet Cavalier in a nicely, easily groomed way. Alright, so I have gone over all the tools that we use and the process that I like to follow with the dogs. So I'd like to thank Angel here for being such a good sport and letting me use her to be able to demonstrate to you the pet Cavalier grooming process. This is all new to her and new to me, and I hope you found it educational, and thank you for watching.